disowned me when they first learned about my relationship with my husband.
And when I think about it, I'm like, it can be really hard to disown your parents and vice versa.
But it's confidence in the things that matter, like your relationships, your family.
But it takes a lot of courage to actually admit what's wrong, and you have done that. So
Who it is you want to become, and how this becomes a part of that strategy to get there.
don't think too much about the quality, because gradually that's gonna get better. Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Ramsha Podcast. Our guest today is incredibly talented. I'm a fan of her, I have to say it. Umama Kibria. She is a savvy tech startup founder and a creative director at Head of Social, and she's a TEDx speaker. She's been part of Forbes Under 30, and she is literally your go-to person when it comes to marketing, technology, brand building, community building, and extremely excited to have her be with us today. And if you're interested in any of these things, everything from marketing to uh, creating a brand for yourself, then this is the episode for you. Stay tuned. Welcome, Umama. Pleasure having you. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for today and honestly to just soak up all of your energy too. I love that you are such an incredible hype woman for the South Asian community and specifically women. So I think we're going to create some magic here today.
I love your energy, and you just made me so excited. So thank you for that. The credit goes to you.
Of course.
So I want to start with the very basic, right? Tell me about your childhood. I know
Loaded.
part of it. I know part of it. I saw your TEDx video,
Yeah.
but let's go deeper into
Ooh.
that, and
Go for it. Yes, I think when I think about my childhood, I first kind of go back to my name, Umama. The root of my name, Uma, means community.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's been my purpose and my journey and my reason for being in this world. But it's also what I was taught from my parents. So I grew up as a first generation Bengali Muslim American. We grew up in Atlanta with a very small kind of Bengali community, but it felt very huge because my dad was this community leader that would gather the entire community. He would host these like epic Desi picnic parties with games and epic New Year's. And I just watched him curate this community around things he loved. And I kind of adapted that myself as well. So I've always been like the slumber party queen or like the announcement girl in my high schools and starting all these clubs and organizations. And I think what I learned from my parents was it is very important to be the safe space for people to gather, give them purpose and unity, but also make sure you feel good yourself. And I think my childhood was a culmination of all these types of community building, both in the Bengali community as well as in school. And then after I graduated, really just out in the world. And I'm really grateful for that experience. But in the same veins, being a community leader also puts you in the spotlight a lot.
Yeah.
And with that comes, people microscoping into who you are, what you do, every little thing. And so it's been a interesting challenge and battle that I've had the opportunity to navigate through my adulthood.
No, that's awesome. And just looking at you and however much I know about you, I see you as a very strong woman,
Thanks.
woman of substance. And I know for a fact that it's not easy to be that way, especially in the world that we live in. Yes, things are changing, but not to an extent as much as I would love them to change, or we would love them to change.
Yeah.
It's not easy to be where you are. And I just want you to kind of go back and tell me about some of the struggles you have faced so far, because you have done some incredible things, from working with the biggest brands to, organizing like really big events. It's not easy, right? So
Yeah.
where does that courage come from?
Yeah, I think like many South Asian women and just people in the diaspora I've connected with, I think we've all kind of struggled with this identity crisis
Yeah.
of not being South Asian enough or not being American enough and being
Yes.
able to, how do I fit between these two worlds? But also, how do I be successful?
Yeah.
And growing up, I grew up in a very middle class family. And then even like the middle school and high school I went, or elementary and middle school I went to were very just like middle income. And then high school, I started getting more aware of higher income families, what success looked like outside of the Bengali community. And I realized, oh my God, if I want to be successful, I have to hang out with these people. I have to talk like them. I have to be like them. And in that journey, I thought, oh, if I want to be like them, that means I have to shed my entire South Asian identity because that doesn't lead to success from what I saw. And so that was very challenging. I feel like so many of us grew up with this like, I'm a coconut, right? I'm brown on the outside, white on the inside,
Yeah.
and I embraced it. But in that journey, I really didn't take advantage of these incredible friendships I could have built within the Desi community. And I hid that part of myself. I was so ashamed. I would not let my white friends come over to my house growing up out of the fear of judgment and the fear of I'll never be successful like their families and them if they see where I've come from.
Yeah.
And so, truly, if I'm being honest, I really haven't I didn't really come to terms with my South Asian identity until right before the pandemic.
Interesting.
Like, so this is
Okay.
just like 6 years ago, right? Where I was like, no, I want these people in my life. I know there's South Asians that exist that are not the gossipers, that are not the backstabbers, that are successful, that want to be inclusive. And so as soon as I started to kind of shed that mindset, that's when I welcomed them in. And that's when my life changed. And I think I share that story because I feel like that's how I've connected with so many other South Asians in that same kind of hurdle to realize we've all been through that mindset.
Yeah.
Two, we all have also understood there's something magical about our community that we feel when we're with them, right? Like we're kind of like a mirror for each other. That's why it's a little scary, right? Because it's like, oh, she knows why I dress this way, or she knows why my face is hidden on Instagram, or something like that. And so that level of connection is what I realized I wanted with people. And ever since I changed, it's been an amazing journey.
No, that is really interesting because I was actually talking to someone like prior to this podcast, and we were just talking about how difficult sometimes it can be to accept who you are, and it's very tough to balance, because you have to stay true to your beliefs and where you come from. That is really important, but at the same time you also should embrace new ideas, new culture, and it's not always easy to strike that balance, like you have mentioned. So, what are the things that you did, that helped you in kind of like striking that balance where you work trying to stay connected to your beliefs and norms that you have seen and that your parents have told you, while also embracing new beliefs and new customs?
Yeah. I think I pride myself in having very diverse friends,
Yeah.
both from South Asian community to Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, everyone. And I think community is what roots you both into who you are, but also gives you exposure to what else is out there. But I love it when I get to actually cross pollinate the audiences.
Yeah.
And so, like, my wedding was this incredible
talk about it.
celebration
Yeah.
of like, it was the first time a lot of my friends had been to an Indian wedding. I'm Bengali, my husband is Punjabi, Hindu, and I'm Bengali Muslim. So that itself was a cross pollination of religion and culture. But then a lot of my American friends got to experience, wow, what is the beauty of this culture? And like truly not just like going for the outfits and the pics, but like trying to understand the religion that comes with it, the beauty of the food and the conversations. And then from my South Asian friends, it was their first time also being at an Indian wedding that had so many non-Indians at it.
Yeah.
And so that's just like a small example of I love creating these safe spaces where I get to activate people and, activate their student mindset by giving them some sort of activity that makes them need to learn something new. Something that causes them to be vulnerable, that I think vulnerability is that key to connection, because as soon as we activate our student mindset, we are vulnerable enough to ask questions and be curious with people. I think that's where connection happens.
Yeah.
And I think not just connecting with people,
Yeah.
but connecting with our roots as well as new opportunities and new ventures. So I say all that to say I think community is the answer to that.
No, that's beautiful. And I was looking at your wedding pictures on Instagram. I was like, this is so beautiful because, you know, I was like, this is actually really special, for obvious reasons because it's a marriage between a Hindu and a Muslim, and yes, the cultures are similar, but there is this mindset that you should marry in the same religion, same caste, and all those things. And I think the way you went about it and the way you kind of brought everyone together, embraced your beliefs and also your partner's beliefs, and vice versa, that's so incredible, and just want to congratulate you
Thank you.
for doing that. And it's such a beautiful example and an inspiration for a lot of people in the same situation, because I see a lot of times that we are trying to change the other person, but you don't have to change the other person. You accept them and they accept you um the way you are.
I want to pause there because, yes, it definitely took me and my partner doing that. But I think the real heroes in this situation
Families.
are our parents.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the journey that they went through? I mean, to be transparent, my parents disowned me when they first learned about my relationship with my husband, because it was the first time I brought a man into the house and said, hey, I love this man. I'm going to marry him. Not now, but I will. And they were like, they met him as my friend, loved him. But as soon as I said he was Hindu, they were like, we will not accept this.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-year journey of them, watching them grow. It was so beautiful, where they asked questions, they got to know him, they talked to imams, they talked to pundits, like they asked the questions. And I think it was beautiful to learn that no matter how old they got, they understood love is love, they love me, and that at the end of the day, their biggest fear is just what will other people say.
Yes, the log kya kahenge
Log
mindset.
kya kenge, and it is the killer of our community. But I think it's up to us also, as we are trying to preserve our cultures and connect back to it, is just to understand a lot of the shame that we feel about our culture is connected to the fact that we grew up around these log kya kenge type of people.
Yeah.
And so give our parents the grace to understand that it's all they know.
Yeah.
And that they will come around, but you have to bring them on that journey with you. You have to let them ask the questions, the difficult questions.
Yeah.
And you have to give them the space to have that journey.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just so proud of both sides of our families that we're able to do that.
And I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
I'm actually so happy for you. It's amazing because it can be difficult to convince parents, and I think a lot of people end up just fighting and rebelling and just cutting off ties. And everyone has
Different.
reasons, their own reasons. But then when I think about it, I'm like, it can be really hard to disown your parents and vice versa. So you really need to talk to them and communicate with them, and it's gonna be a journey. It's
is.
gonna take time.
But it goes back to your original question about confidence,
Yeah.
right? I built up that confidence to know that I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
I trusted myself to get through this.
Yeah.
I trusted that they would eventually get there. And I trusted my partner
Yeah.
that we had the difficult conversations
Yeah.
so that when we are tested, we already have a game plan or at least have open communication. I think, but the number one thing a lot of us lack is that self confidence to believe we'll get through it. So I think, you and I are going to have a lot of conversations on this confidence piece, but it's not just confidence in work, your personal brand, but it's confidence in the things that matter, like your relationships, your family. And when that shows up, that helps you prove out you can be confident anywhere.
And you mentioned about confidence, and that's such a valid point. That, see, I think everything is connected, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're confident about your personal relationships and your bonds, and, like, what, like, your personal life, a lot of that confidence will transition also to your professional life, right? So it's all
Exactly.
connected in that way.
It's community,
Yeah.
right? It's who you're surrounded by. So I'm very, very grateful to have my sister, who was my best friend, my number one cheerleader. When my parents disowned me, she went up to my parents. She was like, "I'm gonna disown you if you don't take her back." And she's a nurse, but she's my number one hype woman. Whether it was building my tech startup,
Yeah.
my relationship, or my events, she's just always there. And I think it's so important to have people like that are just relentless advocates for you, but it's also knowing that you can be that for other people too. So it's not a selfish journey of confidence.
No, I think more than financial support, we need emotional and mental support. And I think your
Yeah.
sister was really the one to give you that. And I think that's where some of that confidence also comes from her, right?
Yeah, definitely. Just knowing you have cheerleaders by your side that allow you to take up space when
Right.
you're at your highs, but also
So
when you're
your
at your
lows,
lows.
yeah.
This past year has been the most difficult for me with my confidence because I experienced depression for the first time.
Hmm.
And I'm this person that is magnetic, electric, and
Yeah.
I'm the one that inspires people. And then suddenly I became this person that I needed that. And it was so amazing to just see all the people that I could do that with that were
Yeah.
there for me. And that's why I think that confidence is so, so key, because knowing that it will go in waves
Yeah.
too. And we have to work very actively to pursue it and to attain it and to maintain it.
Yeah, and thank you so much for actually opening up about depression and what you're going through, because
Yeah.
a lot of people cannot. And you know um usually feel that there's this facade or this face that we, which is good and it's
Yeah.
valid, but we put on that everything is good, everything is fine, but it takes a lot of courage to actually admit what's wrong, and you have done that so beautifully.
Thank you. Yeah, I think once again it's about community and being surrounded by people that remind you that hey, it's okay to be going through this.
Yeah, it's okay to be vulnerable.
It is. And
Yeah.
we've all been through it too. And
Yeah.
the fact that, you don't come off as this perfect person is actually the key to connection too, right? And so I'm just really proud that I have worked hard to build a community around me that has allowed me to be all facets of myself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I want to mention something. I want to shift the conversation
Yeah.
more towards your social media.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of your social media because I feel that, yes, you're giving people valuable advice, but you're also putting parts of yourself. And when I go through your social media, I can get a sense of your personality and the kind of person you are, and I think that's beautiful, right? And so we're just gonna move more on to the now to some of the practical questions, right? Um, I see, and I talk to a lot of South Asian women who are hesitant to put themselves out on social media because, again, they think, oh, what will people say? Log kya kahenge? And how they'll be perceived, and what their family is gonna say. What are the three pieces of advice that you can offer to them? Um, like, women who are genuinely just have a lot to offer, but they're scared to put themselves out there.
Yeah. No, and I just want to say this is a very normal feeling, but I want the end in mind,
Yeah.
right? I want you to reverse engineer who it is you want to become and
Mm-hmm.
how this becomes a part of that strategy to get there.
Yeah.
Now, tactically speaking, how do we actually get started, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, tactically speaking, the number one advice I say first, delete everything. Delete all the apps. I know everyone's like, wait, what? Isn't this the antithesis of like starting a brand? Yes. So the most important part is doing a social media detox
Okay.
because when you are developing a personal brand, it's about you,
Yeah.
right? And so many of us get confused on the you because we are conscious of what is everyone else doing? What's trending? How do I stand up against this person? But during that social media detox, that's when we're going inward. We're asking ourselves, what is it that I'm good at?
Yeah.
What is it that I want to offer the world? There's this concept in Japanese culture called the ikigai, which is the center of what is it you're good at, what is it that the world needs, what can you be paid for, and then what is it that your skills are. And during, I would say, the social media detox, make it a 2 week thing to like really go inward. First week is like do that exercise of figuring out what it is your magic is. Then I would say week 2 is get out there in the field and start surrounding yourself literally in person with people that have a need for what you have to offer. I think that in-person relationship is so important because it validates to us that our unique mindset or our unique background is what certain people are looking for. So, step 1, social media detox. Then step 2 is to create ephemeral content. So, get onto, let's say, a platform like a Snapchat or an Instagram stories. Go to the place where you can just show up consistently, a minimum of like 2 to 3 times a week, where no one sees your metrics, right? It's just like, I'm just showing up here on Instagram stories. Maybe 3 people watch my story.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's that art of getting to trust yourself. To
Building
know,
confidence.
yeah, just and being able to show up, right? Like
Yeah.
that skill is very hard to develop.
Yeah.
To think about posting on a feed, like, dear God, that's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
let's start on stories, post consistently, talk about who you are, what you love, and show up about those things consistently.
Yeah.
And then the third step is, I would say, is commit to a once a week activity that
Okay.
challenges you to grow both internally and externally and meet the community that you want to meet. This is important because it becomes this pillar of content creation. Because now you have this once a week activity you can naturally just share on social media. And then this has become the foundation for your personal brand.
Yeah.
Because now you are consistent. I didn't even talk about other people and what they're doing, right? Like, it's about me. 2, consistency. And 3, something that is unique and repeatable for you. So I think whenever I pivot my brand, which I've pivoted my brand 3, 4 times now since it's been live, and I've been able to do this on a quarterly basis so that I'm always staying true to who I am. And I don't have time to worry about the haters. I don't have time to worry about the aunties because I know exactly who I'm building for. And I also know that it is authentic to me. And that is the most important factor for consistency.
I love this answer.
It's tactical, right? Like, I
I'm
think you
taking
overcomplicate
notes.
it. But yeah, I just wish other people knew that. I think I think it's very important to first get started understanding there's a very big difference between a personal brand and being an influencer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if we can identify that right from the beginning, it can shed a lot of expectations.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
I think when you're creating your presence as an influencer, you're
Mhm.
too quick to hop on certain trends, even if they don't really align with who you are and what your USP is. But again, when you're going with the intention that, hey, I want to build my personal brand.
Yeah.
I want people to know me and the kind of person I am and the work that I'm doing. Then you're more selective about certain trends and what you're going
Course.
into. Is that correct?
Yeah, the way I would think about it is trends are very important. I'm a marketing professional. I've been
Oh,
for
yeah.
12 years.
Yeah.
So I understand the algorithms and you do have to participate in trends in order to find engagement and find growth. But this is the way to separate the two. The influencer might be the one that hops on the trend just to hop on the trend
Yeah.
because it will maximize their views, and at the end of the day, an influencer's goal is to increase their shareholders'
Just
engagement,
gain more
right?
followers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is their business goal.
Yeah.
Versus a personal brand, they're going to take a 50-50 approach to engaging in trends. What that means is they will engage in the trend 50%, which means they might use the sound or they might use the hand movements of like a dance or something, but they're adding additional value or their personal take on it. So it's 50% of the trend, 50% of their own take on the trend. And I think that's the difference between a personal brand and an influencer type of brand.
Right. So someone who is looking to create a personal brand will incorporate those trends into their content, but then there's always going to be more to it, I completely agree with that. But I talk to a lot of people, and one thing that I hear is that it can be difficult to get started on social media. It can be difficult to define their USP or what they want their brand to kind of center around.
Yeah.
So, what actions can someone take to define their niche?
Yeah. So I think it's very important to understand first who you are. So that exercise, once again, of going inward of what it is your magic is to the world. And so I like to do this exercise where you define your 3 core values. This is
Okay.
not your content pillars. These are just who you are as a person and how content plays into those values. So for me, for example, my values are play, clarity, and connection, right? So for me, creating content fits into both connection as well as play.
Yeah.
So I know that when I show up, I should be offering those 2 values also to the world because it's offering that to me. But more tactically, when you're like, okay, well, now I'm trying to find a niche that kind of aligns with my values, I think it's understanding, well, what is it that you're offering, right? And I think this is where we get a little bit confused on like, okay, well, is it I'm trying to monetize on like a skill or service, right? Or am I just growing a brand to be able to have a community, right? So if you identify, and you got to get really clear with yourself and just be very straightforward. Hey, I'm here to make money, right? Cool. What is it that you do that people are going to pay you for, right? Is it marketing? Cool. What in marketing is your niche? Is it social media trends? Is it I'm going to host events and talk about that?
Yeah.
Cool. Identify first, like, what is your main goal?
Yeah.
Community or monetization? And you can do both. But I'm just saying high level, let's say. So then you need to understand, okay, skills, right? Okay, let's say I just want to build a massive community so that I can build any brand that I want in the future. So then maybe you're first like, okay, right now I know I have an interest in South Asian culture.
Yeah.
Okay? I think this is where a lot of people get lost is they try to find the niche that is trending or they see other people doing really well in. But that's never going to lead to consistency, right? If all you're doing is just hopping on what other people are doing. Go inward once again. What is it that you enjoy currently in your life? Because if you go all in on that, I promise you're going to find those people too. So let's say South Asian culture in general, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say someone is a culture creator. Cool. Then every week you have to commit to the niche at first.
Yeah.
I think a mistake that a lot of people do is they look at a big creator and they're like, I'm going to do what they do versus I'm going to do what they did, which is very important to understand. When someone is getting started, it looks very different than when someone is big. And I'm going to be honest, if you see my content now, it is not what I used to do. And I was very niched in first into fitness. Then I was very niched into tech. Then I was very niched in now into kind of like culture, but also event marketing and play. And so if you do what I'm doing right now, it's not going to necessarily lead to growth. And yeah, feel free to stop me wherever if you have questions.
No, I mean, all of these are like really valid points. And I have to say one thing that, when you're starting out, you're starting from zero, you don't have
Yeah.
those followers. That moment, it's just important that you start posting without really thinking much about. I mean, you want to make sure that you're putting the content that you resonate with, but don't think too much about the quality, because gradually that's gonna get better. Do you think that's correct? Do you agree with
It
me?
is correct.
Yeah.
I think consistency is the main thing. But once again, if you like what you're talking about and what you're posting about, you're going to naturally show up consistently.
Right.
Right? So I think definitely get consistent. Don't worry about the quality as much, but just focus on making sure it's something you're putting out that you're proud of, that you enjoy. If you're not watching your own content
No one else will
10,000
watch.
times over, no one else will, right? And then once you have it out there and it's been a while, you've started to do some engagement to understand how people are engaging with it, that's when you can go in and iterate. And that part is also really important.
You mentioned about, like, initially you mentioned about Snapchat, right? Or just like posting on stories. Can be Instagram, it can be Snapchat,
Yeah.
Facebook also, I think, have stories now.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know if anyone use Facebook for stories,
Yeah.
but anyway, um I feel that nowadays there's so many platforms. There's YouTube, there's TikTok, there is Facebook, Twitter,
Yeah.
Instagram, Pinterest. I'm already
It's a
tired.
lot.
Like, there's so many platforms that it's easy to get overwhelmed, right? With
Yeah.
all these different options. So, like, how do you know which platform you should start with? Like, on what basis should you analyze that and get started?
Yeah.
Because I personally don't think it's wise to make a profile on every platform. I mean, you can, but
Yeah. No, I get that.
yeah.
And this is such a common question, but the answer is start start the one that you enjoy consuming, right?
Okay.
The one that you're actively on, right? Because if you enjoy the platform, then you're going to get on there and post more consistently because it's already a habit that you have, right? And then you can go out and expand. I think right now everyone is just like, how am I going to find the next TikTok, right? Because they're like, I already saw everyone that joined at 2020 and they blew off. I need to go out and find those platforms. And it's like, yes, but are you on that platform right now? Like, are you consuming that content? Like, yes, be first to market, but also like go to the place where you enjoy.
Okay, so what I'm getting from this is invest time in a platform that you personally enjoy
Yeah.
consuming content for. No, that is very valid. We briefly spoke about hopping on trends, and I'm guilty of doing this. Like, whenever even if I want to share something valuable, I usually just choose a trending music, even if it's like completely opposite of the content that I'm making, and it works
Yeah.
and it goes viral. But something I notice is that sometimes I'm not attracting the right audience,
Hmm.
right? Because maybe that song that you're using on Instagram has like a different set of audience, and they just like your post because they like your face or the way you look. I don't know, right? I see
Yeah.
that happening with myself, and also like some of the other creators that I work with. So, like, how can someone gauge whether their personal brand is attracting the right audience or community?
Yeah. It comes down to engagement, right? Are
Okay.
you also going out and seeking out the community that you want?
Mm-hmm.
I think so many of us are so over reliant on the algorithm helping us find our people. But if you actually look at a lot of metrics on these posts, you're going to see about like less than 10% of your non followers are probably finding your content,
Yeah.
right? So you have to go find those non followers through engagement, through trending sounds. So
Okay.
first, I like to call this an engagement exercise activity everyone should do
Mm-hmm.
after they post content. So when you post, yes, put a trending song on it. Make sure it obviously somewhat matches the tone of the message, right? Like, don't make it so left field. But honestly, it doesn't matter that much. What matters more is you going and posting it on your stories and then seeing who are the first 10 people that watched it. You better go talk to them right away. AKA, you're going on their profile and having a conversation with them, right? Because social media should be a two-way conversation. It shouldn't just be you're expecting everyone to come to you and talk to you. So if you want to curate that community, go out and talk to them. People will see that you're actively engaged. The algorithm also notices that you are someone that is engaging with the platform and engaging with members of the platform. Therefore, it will then start sending you non-followers to your platform. So first, engage with the people that are already listening to you. 2, you're going to go find some like big hashtags or maybe big creators that have content within that same category you just posted and start engaging in conversations. And when I say engage, I mean comment authentically and have something of value.
Don't just say anything for the sake of it.
Yeah, like I'm not just going to come and say, oh my God, cute pic girl. Like no one's going to come see me as like cute pic girl when they come to my page, right? So I'm going to add value onto other people's pages, but also I'm going to show people like, hey, I'm a friend. I don't see you as a follower. I see you as a friend. I want to attract more friends into my community. So I think the real question should be, how am I engaging to find out who exists in my community? And how am I engaging to find out new people that I want to attract?
Wow. See, I'm taking notes. I'm gonna be implementing all of this.
And these are all like simple, repeatable things, right? Like I'm not saying anything that is totally out of left field for the reason I want people to actually do it.
Right. No,
10 minutes after you post, you should be dedicated to engaging.
Engage with people, leave meaningful comments, send them meaningful messages. Now I want to actually get into monetizing your brand. Because I know someone who has like more than 100K followers, right? And their point of concern is that, oh, I haven't been able to monetize my brand, right? When you meet people like that, or when you work with individuals like that, and they don't have to be like people who are trying to create a personal brand. These can also be like big brands that are experimenting with social media. They're trying to build an audience for themselves on social media. It's a two-part question, right? First, what are different ways to actively monetize your brand? And let's say if someone has less than 30K followers or 20K followers, or they're a micro influencer, can they still monetize their brand?
Yes, definitely. I think the most important thing to recognize is there's 5 different channels of being able to monetize, okay? Here's an acronym I've learned, PAIDS, PAIDS, okay? So number 1, you can do paid type of projects, right? Like partnerships. These could be you're working with brands or things like that. You can do affiliate marketing. So this could be you are getting a discount code or you have a blog that you are incentivizing people to drive traffic to another website. That is another monetization strategy. I is information. You could sell information. So this is where you're seeing your courses or classes, books, exactly, things like that. D is deals. You can work out some sort of partnership type of deals or some sort of like royalty type of deal with a brand so that you get this consistent revenue that way. And then S is services. So you can also offer your time and your information in exchange for your services.
Like one-on-one coaching.
One-on-one coaching, or for example, here are ways that I've been able to monetize my personal brand. Number 1, obviously, is my agency. So I run an agency called Head of Social, and we run social both on the paid and organic side for brands. And we host events too. So I recognize my personal brand is going to be a way for me to create content that shows people, hey, I'm the leader when it comes, the thought leader when it comes to how to execute on social. But I've also started my own tech company too, Sweatpack. So that was also information, right? But also I developed the technology for that. But I was able to monetize that by driving traffic to that tech platform. But a lot of my influencer friends, most of their revenue is coming from partnerships and deals. And then some of my coach friends solely rely on information selling. So I think those, if you think about it in those 5 different buckets, then you can pick, okay, maybe I'm going to go all in on one of them,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to start building out 2 or 3 other funnels after I've gotten good at one. So I think when it comes to monetization, so many different ways, but pick the one that feels good to you.
You mentioned about funnel creation. I
Yeah.
know what that is, but I want you to break that concept down for the audience.
Yeah, so in marketing, we have our marketing funnel, which
Yeah.
is the top of funnel, which is more like brand awareness campaigns. Like your goal is just to get followers or to get reach. Cool. Then you have your middle of the funnel campaigns. These are more of like your conversion opportunities that are like low touch. It's like maybe someone signs up for an email, or they're coming out to an event, or they are subscribing to your podcast. This is where we're kind of capturing leads and interest. But then lower marketing funnel is where the conversion is actually happening. So this is where you've got them as a customer, or now they're your client, or they are a paying subscriber. The full funnel system is super important to understand, specifically in marketing, because you have to understand just posting on social media is the top of the funnel. That is not going to get you to your revenue goals by itself, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important for both marketing professionals, business owners, and influencers and creators to understand you have to have strategies for all 3 of these buckets.
No, that is very interesting because sometimes it's like, okay, I'll just post content on social media and I'm going to get sales, or I'll end up selling my coaching services, but that rarely happens.
You could be really good, and it could happen,
Yeah.
but for most people, you need a 3-tier strategy in order to get those conversions.
That is very interesting. I want to shift focus to your TED Talk because I watched it and I honestly, I became a fan, honestly. So,
Thanks.
you mentioned about the importance of fitness, right? Being fit mentally, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And I think you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like, I have worked out in like more than 100
400.
400.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yes, more than 400 gyms, and I have learned something from each place because obviously, is it like 400 gyms like from all over the world? Or
Yeah.
just-
So a little backstory on that. The snippet of the TED Talk you're referencing is when I was telling people it is so important to date yourself, and just this journey of being able to invest in something where you are slightly uncomfortable, but it's matched with something you enjoy doing, and make that a weekly adventure. And so for me, that weekly date with myself was going to a new gym across the world. And so I think when I stopped counting, it was like 457, which, I was doing a lot of solo traveling. So I was hitting up maybe 2, 3 gyms in a day for context, but I loved fitness. I loved the people I was meeting. I loved what I was learning. But for me, it was this journey of getting to know myself and other people. But then it became this business development stream for me too, to build out my tech platform. Because I was learning on the community side, people want to work out consistently, but they have a hard time actually showing up and using their gym membership. And then on the flip side, the gyms were like, we're having a hard time selling commitment in memberships. So I developed this technology that connected people to group workouts and sports leagues to help them work out consistently, meet new people, and then be able to explore and get to know themselves too. And so this selfish journey ended up turning into this like nationwide journey building out this tech platform.
I would love to know more about that, but I think that's probably gonna be
That's another talk on its own.
another topic on its own and another episode. But I think so. One more thing that I derived from your TED talk was the importance of creating a momentum, right? Like you mentioned that it's important to keep going and to stay consistent even if you're not seeing results. But one thing that always interests me or intrigued me is the fact that for how long should you keep going in that journey? And this can be, yes, building your brand on social media, but for it can also apply to something totally different, like maybe your relationship also. Like, for how long should you stay committed and keep going in that journey till you reach the point where you're like, I have had enough, and maybe I have to change my strategy, or I have to change my
Oh,
direction.
this is getting deep.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think that's a really great question when it
yeah,
comes to when should you know when to stop
yeah,
or to pivot, is what I'd like to rephrase it as. I think it's that moment when you recognize you're showing up not for you anymore, but just the idea of having to follow through on something for the sake of following through.
yeah,
And I've had these inflection moments with both my personal brand and my businesses.
yeah,
So I think I mentioned my personal brand originally was just fitness.
yeah,
But I recognized there was this point when, oh, I actually hate this. I'm only showing up and creating content because other people expect it from me. But this no longer fulfills joy for me. But then that's why I have recommended taking that social media detox, because when you take that break away from it and you start to go inward to understand, is this good enough for me anymore? Have I fulfilled what I need out of it? Am I holding myself back from pursuing the next thing because I'm too scared of what that looks like? When you answer those three questions, I think when we go inward, we understand, hey, this is no longer serving us. These are also the three questions I ask about friendships,
hmm,
right? Like, is this person, is this a one-sided friendship? Am I offering value to them? Are they offering value to me? Does this make me feel good anymore? And when we ask those hard questions with ourselves, I think we end up answering it, and then naturally we make the pivot that is needed. But it takes a lot of that self-trust
yeah.
to
It
know that
takes a
we're
lot
going
of
to be okay.
courage and confidence
Yeah.
to do that. And wow. This is actually really interesting. So when I was watching your TED Talk, I heard date yourself, right? And I was like, that's so true, because if you are, if you're trying to date someone, or you have to invest in that relationship or that friendship and everything, right?
Yeah.
It can be difficult if you don't love yourself enough, or if you feel that you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of in insecurities in relationships, they come from there. Because if you don't feel good about yourself, if you don't love yourself enough, you can't expect the other person um to love you and appreciate you for
Of
who
course.
you are. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think dating yourself is the art of self trust.
Mm.
There's research showed studies that showed that the date with oneself aids in psychological adjustment, meaning that when we are in new circumstances and new positions, we are able to trust ourselves to get out of it.
Yeah,
And that is the premise, or at least the research that supports that dating yourself is important and has psychological value.
yeah,
But to me, it is just a form of knowing that you are worth it.
okay,
You are never alone when you love the person that you are always with.
yeah,
And three, that you will be okay if you are not accepted by everyone around you. Because that love for yourself, you trust to get you through any situation. But I think people I think they complicate what dating yourself needs to look like. Like, I'm not telling you to go to a restaurant without your phone and just like go on a date by yourself. Like,
I've done
yes,
that.
which we should do. But that's like a level, I would say 6, if I'm being honest.
Okay,
Which, yes, do that. But make it maybe more like, hey, I just want to go on the train by myself and just like have this time where I am doing something that I love. To me, something that brings me joy is I love walking in Chicago. It brings me so much joy. And to me, That is dating myself to say that I'm going to carve out 20 minutes today to do this. And so I think when we first figure out things that bring us joy, that can set the foundation to help us understand how we can date ourselves more. And then, yes, I actually tell everyone with my husband, Amit, I earned that man. I did so much work on myself, dating the wrong guys. And I feel like a lot of us make these checklists for what we want in a partner. And what I ended up realizing is, wait a second, I just wanted these things for myself.
Yeah.
And when I became that ideal version of what I was looking for in a partner, that's when I attracted him, right? Like that's when he came into my life.
That's actually really valid because you attract you attract the person that you are, right? If you are in that messed up, depressed state, which all of us go through that at some point or the other, you're gonna attract someone like that. But if you're if you have your priorities clear and you know yourself and you know who you're looking for, then you're gonna attract a similar type of partner or friends.
And friends too, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing. It's at the end of the day, we all want people are going to be different, right?
Yeah.
Like we want that around us.
Yeah.
But when we share values or
Opposite attracts.
yes, opposite attract, but also when we know our own worth, people are attracted to that, right? Like people want to be around high value people. High value meaning like I'm good. You don't have to talk to me if I'm in a room. Like I can be on my own versus low value people that are people pleasers or like constantly seeking validation. Like you're just naturally attracted to people that have more of that high energy, high vibration.
And this leads me to my last question because I can see that we can go on for hours and hours and hours. But obviously, we can't do that today as much as I would like to. Um, so, you mentioned about attracting people that are similar to you, right? But I also see a lot of people, and even some of my friends, they're really scared to lose their friends or a partner because they feel that they'll be miserable alone, that they'll be devastated, and that there's gonna be no meaning remaining to their life once this one person leaves, no matter how toxic they are, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I have also been through that stage. What are three pieces of advice that you'll give to women and men, like everyone,
Yeah.
who are feeling this way that there's no way out of a bad relationship or even a friendship?
Yeah, I just want to say that that feeling is very real for so many of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually a sign that we are personally growing,
Yeah.
right? So, three things I would say that you definitely need to focus in on when you're going through those transitions with relationships. One is first start to, I have a phrase for this. Start to exit your friendships, soft exits. So, this would mean like, hey, I'm not going to communicate in the group chat for now, mainly because you are one, going on dates with yourself.
Yeah.
So, dating yourself.
Okay.
Because that date with yourself is going to remind you of your own value and your own worth. Two, start showing up in communities with people that share similar mindsets as you.
That's a good one.
And similar goals. Because when you're surrounded by those people, you start to realize, wait a second, why am I limiting myself to this friendship that doesn't feel good?
Yeah.
But you don't know what exists until you put yourself out there and find those people.
Right.
So, first, check in with yourself to know you're worthy of that. Two, go find those people in those communities. And then three, have the real conversations with those people and put them in a position to help understand why you don't necessarily feel like this is a two-way friendship or this relationship is no longer validating or valuing you. And I've gone through this journey in this past year through my depression and understanding people that were no longer making me feel good.
Yeah.
And I had to confront those people. And the people that I confronted that were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I didn't show up for you. I didn't know you needed me in that way. Those people rose to the standards and showed up as good friends. While some friends just realized like, hey, maybe this was a phase in life that like we were good together in this phase and maybe we're no longer meant for the phases ahead of us. And it's okay to understand friendships are meant to go in waves like that.
Yeah.
And so are relationships. But the most important people are first yourself and then always trusting you're gonna find those right people.
I love this. And I think that's such a powerful way to end this podcast episode. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of these insights.
Of course.
I'm there were a lot of things you spoke about which I wasn't aware of, and I think I'm gonna go back and implement all of these things, and I think our audience will find a lot of value from all the information that you have provided. More power to you, and wishing you all the best for everything. Thanks for being here.
And I'm so excited for what you're building. And you are building community through these conversations. So thank you for being one of those leaders helping us.
Thank you.